What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets. Happy Monday, and oh, what a happy Monday it is for us 49ers fans. We're presented by Caesar Sportsbook, and we're talking Week 5 Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football preview as well. So let's welcome in our guest, Mr. Monday, Danny Brasco. Danny, before I get into the pleasantries, I'd like to talk to you about something, and that is last night's game. That is Sunday Night Football. That is the 49ers embarrassing the Cowboys 42-10. And, you and I had gone back and forth on social, and somebody took the points with Dallas.
Yeah, I knew this slice of humble pie was coming up. So there you have it. You tried to talk me off it. Thought it was the sharp play. Thought we were going to see a response here from Dallas. Thought maybe the 49ers were a bit inflated considering the weaker teams they played. But look at her sip the Niners mug. I mean,
I'm sipping tea in a large Niners mug today. All right, so that's how we're feeling.
deservedly so, because they washed the Cowboys. Dak, 3 picks. He had been tentative all this time and kind of won't air it out, very low average depth of target because of all the interceptions he threw last year. It looks like, when he finally tries to do something, the Niners were all over him. And it's not working out in Dallas right now. The Niners look like a powerhouse. Purdy, another gorgeous game. What are the haters going to say now, Katie? I mean, I'll let you take the floor from here.
Yes on all this. For everybody that's been, doubting Brock Purdy, welcome to the party. And I do feel like, to a certain extent, last night was really his coming out game. Like, this is finally, I think it's the first game in his career where he actually was the player that a lot of people have been talking him up to be, right? There was always all these little caveats that people had where it's like, oh, wait till defenses figure him out, or he's just got all the weapons. But there were some throws yesterday where this was Brock Purdy's game. You know what I mean? It wasn't Christian McCaffrey. They did a pretty good job of neutralizing Christian McCaffrey. I believe he went under on his rushing yards probably for the first time all season. But Brock Purdy threw 4 touchdown passes. All 4 of those touchdown passes were from outside the tackle box, the most in a game in the next gen stats era. He completed 7 of 10 passes over 10 air yards for 166 yards and 3 touchdowns. He leads the NFL in completion percentage at 72% on such passes this season. He has not thrown an interception all season long. Passer rating of 121. It's the highest for a quarterback over his first 10 starts in NFL history. Purdy is him, okay? And if you're still doubting Brock Purdy, you need Jesus. And I'm not even religious, but that's the only person I think can help you, because Brock Purdy is really him. And it's been really fun for me, as someone who's been on this Brock Purdy train, since basically started. Someone who was on the Jimmy Garoppolo train and rode that until the cows came home, and then saw Brock Purdy and was like, all right, I'm ready to hop off the Jimmy G train and onto this kid. And I'm happy that finally in prime time on the biggest stage, this kid balled out. And I really don't think there's anything else you can say about him. You can't say he's not a good football player. I was watching First Take. I was reading comments last night, and I feel like he's finally getting the respect.
100%. Like, drop the mic. That game drops the mic on that, because the efficiency, the poise, some of the throws he made against Dallas. I mean, we've seen enough at this point to say, no, we can call him a truly good quarterback. Plenty more to prove as the season goes on, but enough of the doubt.
Enough of the doubt. This kid is good. On the other hand, Dak Prescott, like you said, 3 interceptions. You already know, Danny. I took him for a cookie. And that term cookie is one of my favorites, and I got it from you. Obviously, it's something people use in basketball a lot.
Yeah.
Hadn't heard to it, but it's now I call everything a cookie. And I tweeted this thing last night about, I don't know if you saw it, about the 49ers defense anytime they play Dak, and it's Cookie Monster just grabbing all these cookies and eating them, because that's pretty much what happens. Dak Prescott has more interceptions than he does touchdown passes with the 49ers. It was 3-2 coming into last week. Now it's 6-3. I mean, it's 50% more interceptions. And like you said, they wish they could have ran the ball against the 49ers. They wish that Dak Prescott didn't have to make those deep throws. But those deep throws started happening even in the first quarter because he was under pressure. He was flustered. The 49ers defense had their best game of the season. And you look at the offense, and that's why George Kittle, 3 touchdowns, didn't have a touchdown all season long, all of a sudden goes for 3 because they did a really good job of bottling up Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey, even though he still got into the end zone, I mean, the guy's just an absolute freak. I believe it's 14 straight games at this point. But, you neutralize Christian McCaffrey as much as you possibly could, but there's just too many weapons. There's still Kyle Juszczyk that came in for a touchdown. There's still George Kittle. The reverse flea flicker that they did, that apparently the Lions did earlier that day, which I thought
Yeah.
was actually hilarious. It was like, the play du jour, as Pat McAfee said. But the 49ers just have so many weapons on offense that even if you think you're getting their guy, they got more guys.
No, yeah. And if they're playing defense like that, Shanahan is in his bag. Forget about it.
Forget about it. Do you think that Shanahan saw that the Lions did that earlier today and that gave him the idea, or do you think that was just in his playbook?
I mean, it's definitely a copycat league, but he's
Yeah.
got plays like that.
Yeah.
We've seen plenty of like with the hybrid weapons they have, the Debos of the world. You can do anything you want in offense.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was listening to Stephen A. Smith this morning, and he brought up a question to Dan and I believe to Shannon Sharp about Brock Purdy, long term. And obviously, Brock Purdy isn't the tallest quarterback, although I think he's still like 6'1". I have to look up what his height is. But there were a couple passes that were batted down, and Stephen A. brought up the question of, okay, well, when he gets, when he plays some real teams, which with the Dallas defense is a real defense. Okay, anybody that says anything different is crazy. But maybe he's just trying to play a little contrarian here. He said, what's that going to look like when he's up against some real defenses? And my first thought was, and this is not how the guys were just like, what are you talking about? But if Jimmy Garoppolo was in this game and he had two passes batted down like that within it was either the first quarter or certainly the first half, he would have been like Dak Prescott. He would have been throwing the ball all over the place. There would have been interceptions. He would have been rattled. Brock Purdy was not rattled. I mean, he's just so calm, cool, collected in the pocket. He's got people coming right at him, and he's still throwing and getting Ayuk in between two defenders. Like, it's just, it's crazy.
And
It's
you know
crazy.
what? This will be an interesting talking point as we move towards, as the show goes on. We talk about the Raiders Packers
Yeah,
tonight, where Jimmy G is going to be featured.
yeah,
And you're seeing that, yes, he's always been known as a winner. You always had his back. People
yes,
underrated him. The Niners just kept winning with him. And he certainly had talent
yes.
executed as he needed to in Kyle Shanahan's great system. But outside of that system, we've seen him struggle a bit. And look at what that system is creating with a more talented, younger, more explosive
Yep.
quarterback that can take that to the next level. And I think that's the difference we're seeing here. I'm interested to see what Jimmy keeps looking like with the Raiders in this kind of hapless offense right now, but we'll get into that.
Absolutely. We will get into that. But let's look at some other big games from week 5. So the Saints shut out the Patriots 34-0. Mac Jones was benched again. The Patriots have lost, or actually, it was their largest home shutout in the history of the franchise. They back to back Danny, back to back 30 points. Sorry, I had to really take a moment to let it sink in. Back to back 30-point losses. It's the first time since 1970. This is Bill Belichick. This is one of the greatest football coaches to ever coach, and this is a dynasty franchise with back to back 30-point losses. It's the first time since 1970. It's the second largest loss of Belichick's career. The largest was unfortunately last week. Yes, it's Mac
Speechless.
Jones. Yeah,
Speechless.
it's thank you. I mean, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that I don't even know what to say about this. If you're listening, I'm not. It's yes, it's a Monday, but it's really just I'm speechless about this. Yes, it's Mac Jones, but it's got to be more than that, Danny.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't think that the floor was this low on the Patriots. And I made the analogy when I freaking bet on them yesterday that I'm buying the bottom of the market, right?
Yes,
-1
yes.
home favorites against Dennis Allen's Saints with a one-armed Derek Carr. I mean, come on. Like, no chance that they figure out a way with their offense running into walls every play to beat Bill Belichick. Whatever he schemes up, he surely has the coaching advantage. Mac Jones, they can surely find a way to score some points and just, win a manageable game. And they get decimated like that against Derek Carr. I mean, obviously the Saints defense did most of the work for them because Mac Jones got benched
But
again
where
for
was the
Bailey Zappe.
Patriots defense? Are they on strike? They
And
got to be on strike.
why did I draft them in my fantasy league is the second question. Because
Oh, yeah,
hello, the Saints against Derek Carr and they
yeah,
put up a dud?
yeah.
I don't understand how low the bottom is. Now, next week, they're sure to be massive underdogs again. And maybe I'll have the cojones to go back to the well and see if I can buy at the absolute penny stock bargain basement Patriots, because I do like to bet against overreactions. But at this point, Katie, it's not an overreaction. They stink. And that's all you can say about it.
Well, and that just goes to show, I mean, yes, it's coaching, yes, it's scheme, and yes, it's whatever, but that goes to show that the draft and how you get drafted is kind of meaningless. You look at Mac Jones and how high he was drafted versus a Brock Purdy, and are we really going to say that Belichick is not a good coach or doesn't know how to coach quarterbacks? I mean, look what Tom Brady was able to do, or that they don't have any weapons. I mean, you still have Kendrick Bourne. Yeah, maybe they don't, obviously, they don't have the arsenal that the 49ers do, but Mac Jones, I think he's just not a very good quarterback in the NFL. And he was able, some people are good in college and it doesn't translate. And Mac Jones does not translate. But looking at this Saints team, it was really hard to get this offense going. All of a sudden, they've got a 34 point explosion. Do you think that this offense is sustainable for New Orleans?
No, not at all.
Ah,
I mean, I
wow.
really
Quick
don't.
no. Quick no.
I'm fairly low on this team. Their defense is going to keep them in games. They're always gritty. Cam Jordan, those guys, they have veteran leadership on that side of the ball. So, they always battle. But you see some of the advanced analytics, and their defense isn't holding up to the kind of level that it was in previous seasons. I think that's going to start to show in some games. Certainly not against the Patriots, who couldn't figure anything out, make them look like world beaters on that side. But Derek Carr and this offense are just really, really, they don't it's not a creative scheme. I'm just not seeing anything that looks promising. The
Yeah.
more film that's out on them, I think the worse they'll do. And I don't even if Jameis ends up coming in, I don't think it's going to get any better. You know how much of
Yeah.
a turnover liability he is. So I'm not that high on the Saints. In fact, I'm fairly low, and I
Yeah.
don't think they end up winning this division.
Well, the Saints' next game is the Texans. Another, rookie quarterback who's been balling is CJ Stroud, and he struggled a little bit yesterday, and then kind of, I mean, look, the Falcon. I was on the wrong side of this because, last year, and you were on the show a lot last year, you remember fading defenses coming back from London, not having
Yeah,
a bye was very profitable. This
yeah.
Falcons defense was not jet lagged at all. And they gave the Texans a very, very hard time. And CJ Stroud didn't even get a touchdown until like the end of the game. They ended up, their team total was 20 and a half. I took the Texans over their team total 20 and a half. They ended at 19. So it was a bad beat for me, and only one touchdown in the whole game. So the Saints have the Texans next. Not quite sure how they're going to fare there. Patriots have the Raiders next. And like you said, this kind of depends on what tonight's, I mean, if the Raiders somehow ball out tonight, is it possible that the Patriots are double digit dogs?
No way, not a chance. Imagine that. But like, I like the sip out of the mug. I feel like, ew, Patriots Raiders next week. If the Raiders get embarrassed by the Packers tonight, what are we going to think about that matchup? I feel like I'm going to bet Patriots in that, but like,
Yeah.
man, nobody should watch that game.
Yeah, and by the way, we'll all be tuned in just to see how bad it can actually get. Okay, so the Jags can only win in London. It appears, right? They beat the Bills 25 to 20. I was on the wrong side of this. I hammered the Bills minus the 5.5. In hindsight, of course, it was a letdown spot for the Bills coming off that very emotional win over the Dolphins the week before. Uh, but the Jags have to come home now, okay? They've had the 2 games in London. Now they have to go home where they have not covered the spread as favorites. Are the Jags an actual contender based on what you've seen in London?
I definitely think they are. I mean, it's early season still, so they're still figuring it out. We saw them come out of the gate very slow, but you're right. I mean, how many Jaguars fans must there be in London, especially if these guys are betting overseas? Like, there must be lots of Trevor Lawrence jerseys walking around.
Yes. I think
These
they're
guys
the
are
most popular team in London because they
they're
played
a
the most
different
games there.
they're a different beast in London. It's crazy. The London Jaguars, and I've been betting on them past 2 years. They've been cashing for me. I actually took the
Yeah.
plus 5.5 because
Smart.
that big emotional win, sort of a good spot, a good letdown spot, having to travel where a team's already got that rest advantage, being in that area. Good spot to play, but. And the Bills had all the hype riding on them, rightfully so. But
Yeah.
I think that was like a good place to jump off the hype train. But I do think that the Bills are not they're not going to take too many steps back. They'll be fine. They'll,
No.
they'll get
Yeah.
the only thing I am concerned about for is they lost Tre'Davious White for what looks like the season, and he's probably their best corner. He is elite. That
Yeah.
can change things. But as for the Jaguars, yeah, I think they'll start to piece things together and make a run in the AFC South.
Yeah, the Bills started to get it going towards the end, but they got it going a little bit too late for us Bills backers there, even if you had the Bills money line. And, you talk about the Bills losing Tre'Davious White. Well, they also lost Matt Milano. He's likely done
Yeah.
for the season after suffering a fractured leg and a knee injury. Von Miller was back. He said he dipped, he dipped his toe in yesterday, obviously on a limited pitch count. You can't expect too much from somebody coming back after being off for that much. He's ready to jump into the. So you win some, you lose some. Von Miller coming back, I think, is going to be good for them. Losing Matt Milano, of course, is bad. But yeah, I'm not down. I think that I think Bills 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
That's me.
that would probably be the Super Bowl a lot of us would like to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a spicy one. But yeah,
And
I think
because look, I'm never going to count the Chiefs out. We've seen way too much Patrick Mahomes to count them out, but I'm not sold on this offense. This is the first time where I'm like, ooh, I don't know. It's just not as efficient or high powered as it has been, and really hasn't been a lot of change there to the offense. I've been very impressed with their secondary and their defense, but I think that the Bills are the best team in the AFC right now because I know that the Dolphins can score a lot of points. But their defense can't stop anything. So when they get up against someone who also can score a lot of points, I think it's a problem for them. So next up, the Jags have the Colts. Anthony Richardson, really bummer. He's got something going on with his shoulder. I can't remember what exactly it is, but he's out for possibly a month or more. They've got an MRI today. Huge loss for the Colts. Although Gardner Minshew is, of all the backups in the league, Minshew is one where you're like, we can still win games with this guy. You got Jonathan Taylor back, who really did nothing, but what can you expect from him? And then who's their other running back that just had 2 touchdowns yesterday? Why am
Zach
I
Moss.
Moss, Zach Moss. Hello. It's just so funny that Jonathan Taylor gets paid and then Zach Moss has the 2 touchdowns, but that's gonna regress towards, I think that Jonathan Taylor's still gonna have a good game. And then the Bills get a little bit of a break because they've got the Giants next. And as you know, as a Giants fan, this is bad, Danny. I mean, I was really high on the Giants coming into this year. You had predicted a little bit of regression, but this isn't a little bit of regression. This is a what the F is happening, and why can't Danny Dimes do anything?
Yeah, I think my official prediction
Feel
was
one?
Giants will finish 7-10. Thinking we'd miss the playoffs, compete in the division. It's not going to go even that well, even that poorly. Whatever the bar is, it's lower than the low standard I had already set it to. The offensive line is an embarrassment. It's truly an embarrassment. I mean, we all see the clip of Evan Neal blocking his own guy. Like, it just doesn't get worse than that. It's not even that he can't stop anything coming at him. It's just there's no communication on the line either. Every position looks out of sorts. Andrew Thomas was our best lineman. He's missed so much time already that I don't think he can even come back and save it. So you see Daniel Jones injured now. He's taking a beating back there. I mean,
Oh,
so many
he is
sacks.
getting rocked.
You saw the
Yeah.
look. It's the meme of the year now. All of a sudden, the look of fear in his eyes. I mean, he didn't
I
have a
think he just
chance.
kinda has a weird, not a weird face, but he's got, I don't know, I think that's just his face. And then when he's, like, reading the defense, it looks like he's, like, wanting like, he's terrified, which
And
if I were him,
yeah,
I'd be terrified.
there's no bailout here without Saquon, right? You see how valuable he is to the offense. We don't have the skill positions at wide receiver or elsewhere. Darren Waller looks like a sunken investment right away. I mean, hello, where is he? We spent a lot of money on that guy, and he's not getting involved in the offense very much. It's not working. It's just nothing's working. The defense isn't gritty and hard nosed like it can be to stand up sometimes when the offense isn't performing. They're trying, but a lot of inexperience back there in secondary too. So I'm not seeing hope on the horizon, Katie.
Now, do you place and I'm not saying I do, but is Dable on a little bit of a hot seat? Does any of this track back to him?
Like, yeah, it has to because it just looks so bad out there.
Yeah,
If it was like we were losing close competitive games, or maybe we made
yeah.
some key errors at the end, but could have. It's not even like that. We're not even in a lot, these games. We barely beat the Cardinals. I mean, it took a miracle to beat the Cardinals. So, who, by the way, are better than we thought they were going to be. But
Frisky,
they're
frisky.
feisty, man. They
Yeah,
play with fire. I
yeah.
respect. They have fire in their gut. Remember, wow, he was right.
Yeah.
I guess they all took the bus, but but yeah, I digress. The Giants, Dayball did so well last season that will carry over, and
Yes,
however much of a stinker this year is,
yes,
we'll just be so grateful that we had last year,
yes.
and year 3 will be the really one that determines it.
Yes, we'll always have the 2022 season. All right, speaking of those frisky Cardinals, they lost, and we've said this on this show. Well, one, we thought the Cardinals were going to be terrible at first, and then turns out, hello, they're not. But I feel like after watching them through 5 weeks, this is not a team that's going to win a lot of games. I believe they've only beat the Dallas Cowboys, but this is a team that's gonna make it hard on you, and the way that this Bengals and Cardinals game started out, I was like, "Oh, here come those frisky Cardinals," and then Joe Burrow just went off, and
Yeah.
Joe Burrow finally looked like himself again, which I got to say, football is better when Joe Burrow is good. It is more fun to watch football when Joe Burrow is good, and it is more fun to watch football when George Kittle is getting touchdowns. Those are my two things that I like to see almost every single week. He threw for 317 yards, 3 touchdown passes to Jamar Chase. Chase finished with a season high of 192 yards. Is Burrow back, or is it the Cardinals?
He's looking like he's back because he's truly looked injured and off until the second half of last game. Even the beginning of that game started a little slow. We're like, man, what is up with that calf? You just see it when he rolls out of the pocket. The mobility just looks kind of awkward. He can't plant down on that leg. You can't
Yeah.
plant down. You can't
Yeah.
pop up and throw with explosivity. So he was underthrowing some guys. He was missing throws. He makes in his sleep. And all of a sudden, he's looking like you plant on that calf and throw dimes to Jamar Chase. Shout out to my fantasy team. Finally, I'm in an auction draft with the Sportsline guys,
Yeah.
and I sold the whole cabinet for Jamar Chase in the
Oh,
draft. I
okay.
spent a
Yeah.
lot of money thinking, all right, this guy's just going to take me to the
Yeah.
promised land.
Yeah.
Finally, he produces for me in a major way, like 60 fantasy points. It was a joke.
Well, that's yeah, amazing. I thought that Tyler Boyd was on my bench, and then I moved him up because I'm like, you know what? With T Higgins out, I think the boy and no, not really.
Yeah, I mean, he was there, but yeah,
The
he didn't put
logic
up a
was
big.
there, but it just, Jamar chases him.
He
There's
just
so many hymns running around at this point, but Jamar is certainly one of them. And
one
shout out to you for having him on your fantasy team.
One of him. That's right. But
Yeah.
to give the Cardinals props, yeah, they're going to cover spreads. If they keep being wide underdogs, like this -3 line the Bengals were at, was talking about bottom of the market for the Patriots. Felt
Yeah.
like bottom of the market for the Bengals too. Like just a field goal favorite. I know you're on the road, but against the Cardinals, the perception is Burrow versus Cardinals. Regardless of how injured he's looked or bad he's played. And at first, the game started out, I was like, man, is Cardinals going to be +3 really going to be a sharp play again? And then Burrow became Burrow, Chase became Chase, and they
Yeah,
covered.
if you give me the Cardinals as double digits, I'll take them every single time. You know what I mean? I mean, that's just where the value is. But yeah, at a sharp line like that, it's like, oh, I don't know. It's just hard
Weird.
to not back Burrow. But there's a big test for the Bengals because they face the Seahawks coming up next, and the Seahawks has looked like a very good team. Gino has been balling. We know that they can score a lot of points and score in a hurry, and so you know. Hopefully, this is a bit of a track meet, but as we know, the 12th men are going to be loud and proud, and that's a tough place to play.
Yeah, Lumen. I feel like, though, I was maybe a little higher on the Seahawks coming into the season than I
And what
am
you've
now.
seen.
I feel like I'm going to rate them a little lower than where I had them. I didn't think they were going to compete with the Niners to win the division, but I thought they'd have an interesting kind
Yeah.
of rivalry there. And I don't want to call anything this early in the season, but I don't think the Seahawks are going to be that competitor I thought they might have been.
Yeah, but also the Bengals aren't the competitor that I thought they were going to be. So I think that this matchup will be it's so weird because if you talked to me at the beginning of the season, well, I guess if you talked to me at the beginning of the season, I would have thought this would have been an interesting matchup because to your point, people were very high on the Seahawks, but I would have thought Bengals for sure are going to win that game. And now I'm like,
Yeah, right. And all of a sudden, that 11.5, we brought it up last week. That under 11.5 Bengals win total looks like it's rock solid, right now. So yeah, Burrow's calf can get healthier and he can keep performing. But I think we were on the money and feeling like they were overinflated coming off last season.
Yep. All right, let's keep things in the AFC North here. Talk about the Ravens and the Steelers. Huge rivalry there. The Ravens collapsed to the Steelers. Now, the Ravens have been looking hot, 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 and the Steelers have been looking like hot trash. But we know, well, I just came up with that right now. We know that these rivalries are always going to be a slugfest, especially these two teams. I had the under in this game, and the Ravens just made a lot of mistakes. They were held scoreless in the second half, which, as we know, Lamar Jackson went off for 4 touchdowns in the week before. So he threw an interception in the end zone, which was just an absolute killer. We've said before the start of the season, this division was going to be a tough one. Lamar Jackson needs to be better than this.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the conversation and the narrative we're having every year at this point with the Ravens, who always seem poised for, big success. And then, Lamar's underplaying. The injury riddled, seasons continue. I mean, they're so thin at running back and wide receiver.
Yeah.
And it feels like even, an injury happens and then Rashad Bateman tweaks his hamstring and then Justice Hill tweaks his ankle and then Gus Edwards comes up, slow. I'm like, geez, they can't get healthy. But this was always going to be a gross game. The under was the best play of the week, I think,
Yeah.
across any bet you
Yeah.
could have made. And I was on this for a couple units myself too. Guys, if you see 38 or lower on the board, just close your eyes and take the under. Like they're
Yeah.
setting it as low as they can
Yeah.
to make you want to
Yeah.
feel like, well, they got to
Yeah.
score, more
Yeah.
than that.
Well, even
No, they
I had the
don't.
under of the Patriots game too, and I didn't realize that was because the Patriots weren't gonna score at all, and the
It's the
Saints were gonna get 34. That was at
both of
39.
Katie, both their games last week was 43 and a half against the Cowboys. Cowboys put up 38 on them. It stays under 43 and a half. Same thing happens.
Sick.
Stays
It's
under with
sick.
them not scoring and the other team scoring 30 plus. It's crazy. Crazy stuff.
It's like you could bank on a blowout and still hit the under because that's how bad that the Patriots are because they can't seem to score.
We can't not get away from the Patriots right
Anything.
now.
But one thing that I thought was interesting in this game is I'm sure you've seen the viral clip. Everyone's calling for Matt Canada's head. They shout it, at formerly Heinz Field. I don't know what it's called now. Something weird that doesn't make sense. It's always going to be Heinz Field to me. They hate him every time there's something is posted online about the Steelers. It's just all the comments are like, fire Matt Canada, hate Matt Canada. And there's this clip online right now where Kenny Pickett decides, I'm not listening to Matt Canada anymore, and I'm going to do my own thing. And it ends up being the game-winning drive. And he's just sitting there. Everyone else around him, in the box is cheering and happy, and he is emotionless. Not a
I
good look.
haven't seen this clip.
Oh, I gotta send it to you.
Oh
I
my
gotta send it to
goodness. Well,
you. Yeah.
how interesting is that? Yeah, maybe he's like a sitting duck at offensive coordinator because it obviously hasn't gone well. The Steelers have a terrible offense. However, I like to pat myself on the back because this was the best game I had yesterday. I was on Steelers plus 4.5, and I sprinkled the money line too. In this matchup, Katie,
Mhm.
if there's an underdog of 3 or more points, just close your eyes and take the dog. The
Mhm.
underdog has cashed on the spread in this matchup 18 3-1 against the spread in the last 21
Wow.
times. I mean,
Wow.
it's insane. So if there's a dog and a wide underdog, just
They're
take it
barking.
because this is how they play each other, right? Always. And Mike Tomlin, rah spot. Mike Tomlin is the most profitable coach as an underdog in the NFL's history. So easy decision there. But the game was disgusting. It was a gross display, and it ended up being who could just hang on longer and make less mistakes. That somehow ended up being the Steelers with a Pickett to Pickens deep bomb to win
Well,
the
and
game once
and
again.
and who can make the most mistakes? Pickens. Pickett finally was like, "I'm not listening to Matt Canada, and I'm gonna call my own play here," and that's what ended up happening. I just sent you the clip. It's on, on Instagram. I think I sent it to you, but watch that on your free time, and it is very telling, and I don't understand why Mike Tomlin why he's so loyal to Matt Canada. I mean, the guy is just flat out not very good at his job.
Yeah, the offense is so vanilla and it hasn't changed. Nothing's changing. Like, let's just keep beating our head into the same wall. Doesn't make sense. Maybe there's a relationship at play there, but yeah, they definitely need a spark on
How
offense. And
strong is the relationship where you allow this to happen? But anyways, the Ravens' next game is the Titans. It's in London. Now the Ravens have already left to London, so they're getting an early start there, probably trying to acclimate to the time change and everything else. Kind of smart. Titans. I mean, I'll take. I don't know what the line is, but I probably like a Ravens in a bounce back spot here.
I'd probably just take the under again. Like this
Yeah,
sounds like another under
yeah,
type of matchup.
yeah,
Ravens, Titans. And the Titans I'm trying to rate as well. Where do I think of them? I thought they were going to beat the Colts yesterday. But like you said, Minshew is maybe an upgrade
yeah.
from Richardson at this point, so they can win games. And the Titans, they're
They,
just
the
like that
Titans can't
mid.
get out of their own way. They turn the ball over. Matt Ryan just it's yeah,
They're plus
it's
three and a
gross.
half home dogs, Titans. Vrabel's a dog is good. Under 40.
I mean, used to be good.
Yeah.
What has he shown us this year? Yeah, I mean, traditionally, sure. Steelers next game is the Rams. The Rams lost. This is another bet that I lost. By the way, I was positive on bets. I went 4-3 by one last week. I feel like I'm talking about all my losers here, but I did take the Rams to cover
Same.
against the Eagles because I thought and they did play pretty good, but ultimately, they made Stafford starts throwing that ball loose too, and a lot of things end up going wrong. But a lot of people had questions of what is this offense going to look like when Cooper Cup comes back? Is Puka still going to get fed? And now we know. I mean, both of them coexist in this offense. Both of them got a touchdown. Cooper Cup went out, balled out, just right off the bat. He was kind of quiet there for a while. But I think having both of these guys in the offense, I like this Rams team.
I do. And again, we're grading ourselves on how we predicted teams coming in and where we see them now. I am higher on the Rams where I saw them
Yeah,
early. I don't think any of
me
us
too.
expected them to actually have this high level of an offense. And Puka Nakua, even the little like 7-yard catches he has great hands. Like he makes them in
Yeah,
tight windows and tough slots and angles. I'm like, damn. Like even the ones that no one's gonna watch on SportsCenter, the 5-yard sideline. I'm just so impressed with him. So, like you said, he coexisted beautifully with Cooper Cup
yeah,
right away. The target share is
yeah,
going to both of them.
yep,
Puka gets in the end zone,
yep.
and yeah, I feel like look, I was on Rams plus 4.5 as well. That was one of my losers yesterday. It felt like they could have covered that time like many,
Yes,
many times.
yes.
And it
Me
feels
too.
like yet another game that the Eagles
Mhm.
win in which they probably could have gotten beat or at least not covered the spread. But, I
Yeah.
just feel like, again, this is going to happen, Katie. The Eagles are very good, but that game does not make me rate them higher than I saw them coming into that game. You know what I mean? I feel like they
You
could have gotten beat.
you wanna know a hot take?
Hit me.
I'm gonna throw a hot take out there, and you tell me, are the Eagles this year the Vikings last year?
Ooh, that's too spicy. That's too spicy.
Just getting lucky wins.
Not that lucky. Oh my God. You see the Vikings' luck now. Geez, they can't hold on to the
Well,
ball.
I
There's
mean,
like grease on them.
but which of these wins that the Eagles have had are you're just like, "Yes,
I know,
that
right?
this offense crushed him."
Right?
And again, I'm biased because 'cause I'm a 49ers fan, but you watch these 49ers games and you're like, "Yes." I watch these Eagles games and I'm like, "Coulda gone either way."
I got a good analogy. I'm a big fight better, right? Anyone
Yeah.
that likes UFC or MMA will enjoy this. I feel like the Eagles are like a big favorite going into a fight that ends up winning like a close decision with like
Yes.
control
Yes.
time by like
Yeah.
wrestling the guy and like ticky tack win. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
And don't get me wrong, the Eagles are a very good team. They are 5-0. I look forward to week 13 when our but I feel like based on what I've seen, the Eagles have squeaked out some tough wins. They've gone into overtime. Do you know what I mean? And against some teams where you're like, "Oh, well, okay, they barely beat the Bucks there," And so
Patriots were
right,
coming back on them.
right, kind of barely and so they've gotten these wins and all that matters is a W in the win column, but there are cracks in the armor, people. That's all I'm saying. On
You
that
love it.
note, let's take a quick break and we come back. We're going to be looking at tonight's game, Monday Night Football, Packers and Raiders. Stick around. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words, Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. All right, welcome back to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Here with my guy, Danny Brasco. All right, Danny, tonight we've got the Raiders and the Packers. Raiders are laying 2 points. And the over-under is 45.5, kind of a moderate, price here. What do you think? What are your 3 best bets for this game? We'll start with the first one.
So I think I'm going to start with the over, actually, if you can
I like it.
believe it.
I like
And
it.
yeah, typically, primetime games, I'm looking towards the under. Usually Public's on the over side, but I cannot trust the Raiders defense here. And I've been pretty impressed with Jordan Love. Yes, he did falter against the Lions, but Dan Campbell's squad, Katie, we talk about all the time. He's going to bite your kneecaps. And
Divisional rivalry,
right,
those
they
games
just
are
punched him.
different.
They just punched him in the mouth, and they just out physicaled him out. Just kind of dominated them every area of that game. So it's one game, move on, and now you get a kind of very weak Raiders squad. That first of all, the Packers squad is actually quite efficient on offense, 12th in EPA per play. So Jordan Love's efficiency has been there. He's a top 10 passer rating, and I think he's going to have a lot of chances to make plays against the secondary that ranks 30th in EPA per play.
Yes. Yes.
Efficiency versus poor efficiency on defense.
Yes.
So, I'm leaning towards offense for the Packers, and that's what I see. And they might not have Jair Alexander on the opposite side of the ball. They've got some issues on the defense that cannot stop the run.
Yeah.
The Raiders have not been able to run the ball very successfully, but something's got to give. So maybe tonight Josh Jacobs finds success. If
Yeah.
Love is having success on his side through the air, the Raiders can run the ball and actually set themselves up to
Yep.
score with Jacobs. Give me the over 45.5.
I love it, and I don't have a play actually on this side. I want nothing to do with this 2 points. I don't know. I don't these both of these teams, yikes. Jimmy Garoppolo, obviously, Davante Adams is questionable. He would have to be really injured not to play in this
I
game, so
think
I'm
I think yeah, the reports are leaning that he is coming back.
yeah.
Right, he's not going to miss a revenge game against Green Bay, and
No
it looks like
way.
he is going to play. I believe.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo's coming back. Him and Jimmy are kind of starting to get into a little bit of a groove here. But I lean the same way with the over, and that's why I'm going to take Jordan Love actually over his passing yards at 237.5. We don't know too much about Jordan Love, but we can tell that this is a very pass-oriented offense, 63.6% pass rate, for the Packers so far this season, and we also know that Jordan Love likes to throw the deep ball. We've seen that time and time again over the last few weeks. He's coming off of 11 days rest. I think he's primed for a big bounce back after that loss of the Lions, like you said, on TNF. And he has gone over this yardage mark in all but one game this season, and like you said, Raiders defense, yikes. They've allowed 74% adjusted completion rate to opposing offenses. It's the highest in football, like you said, 30th in EPA per play against the pass so far this season. And I see a Davante Adams revenge game here. So I have high hopes for him and Jimmy G, which I will get into with the rest of my picks here. But it's possible that the Packers are going to need to play catch up here. So I see Jordan Love throwing the ball a lot.
I'm going to tell you on this. I actually am going to make that an official pick for myself as well, because I'll give you another stat that backs that up. And I like the points you're making a lot. From a clean pocket, Jordan Love completing 62.7 percentage rate for 7.6 yards per attempt and 7 TDs, 1 pick. When pressured, goes way down. 33% completion rate, yards per attempt goes way down. Guess what? The Raiders, 31st in pressure rate in the NFL. Jordan Love should
Yeah.
be chilling behind a clean
Yeah.
pocket. Maybe an offensive line that's 1 week, 11 days, like you said,
Yeah.
healthier, big rest advantage spot.
Yep.
I like it. I'm going to tail that Jordan Love over passing yards play.
Let's go. I like it. We're on the same side. All right. My next bet, I got to get my guy.
Where are we at?
We got Jimmy Garoppolo. I've got love and bad for you, Jimmy. I'm gonna talk to you for this one. I'll put you right here.
Talk to him.
Talk to him. All right, so Jimmy Garoppolo, I'm gonna take him over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I'm also gonna take him to throw an interception because we do know that I love my interception props. Obviously, I hinted at this with my last pick, but I do love this spot for a Davante Adams revenge game. And who's gonna be throwing him the ball? Oh, Jimmy Garoppolo. He has hit this mark in 2 out of 3 games. The only games where he didn't get, or game singular, that he didn't get 2 passing touchdowns was against the Bills. That is a very tough defense that he is not exactly going to be up against. I mean, look, Packers have been kind of middle of the road. I believe they're like 18th in their pass defense. And Jimmy G historically has been money on Monday Night Football. He's thrown at least 2 touchdown passes in 3 of his last Monday Night Football games with the 49ers. But yes, you got to take him for over on the interceptions. He's got 94 passes in 3 starts for the Raiders and 6 interceptions.
I mean, how do you not take that as well, right? And if he's under pressure, he's really folded. We've seen his numbers collapse under pressure and without a clean pocket.
He's the opposite of Brock Purdy.
Right? I mean, no Trent Williams anymore to protect you, right? So tough sledding for Jimmy G. But I totally agree with you. I think that Davante Adams is poised to have a big revenge game. Looks like he's going to play. And there's no way, even if Aiden O'Connell comes in this game, that Davante doesn't get some touches here. So I took the over 6.5 receptions. He's gone under this by the hook, actually, in the first 2 weeks of the season at 6. But one of those was against Buffalo, elite secondary with Tre'Davious White covering him. That doesn't exist on the Raiders side of on the Packers side of the ball if Jair Alexander is out, and that would be his main matchup. Even if he's in, he'll be limited. So I think Davante will have a good matchup wherever he is, and I think he goes over this. He can have 7-8 catches and cash us a plus money. I got this at plus 105, so I like Davante here.
Love that. I also like him for an anytime touchdown at minus 105. I might even sprinkle a little bit on 2 touchdowns because I don't know who else is going to be getting the touchdowns. He has 3 touchdowns in 4 games so far this season. He has at least won in 50% of those, had a couple in half of those. And he gets almost twice as many targets as any other receiver does. In the entire NFL. He's also targeted the most in the red zone. So for Davante Adams to get a touchdown, minus 105, let's take it. Over 6.5 receptions. And then, Jimmy G over 1.5 passing touchdowns. One of them has to be Davante Adams. But you actually, you have you like a side here.
I do, and I actually jumped ahead of myself, so apologies. But I'm going
no,
to play.
It all went together.
I'm going to play a side. I'm going to actually take this to the window. I didn't want to bet this game at first, but I decided I see an advantage for the Packers plus 2.5. And mainly, big advantage is Matt LaFleur off a loss. He has a fantastic record against the spread. And I played that I believe it's 14-4 against the spread off a loss. I played that last week. It lost. So I'm going to go back to the well, right? If it's such a good ATS record, sure, maybe some regression was due, but it's still sterling trend to play. And I'm going to do it here in a game where I perceive a big quarterback advantage. If Love is playing with a clean pocket, if Jimmy's getting rattled early, if there's some defensive kind of stand up from the Packers, I think that they could look like the much better team here. I'm more impressed with what I've seen from their scheme, and the Raiders might, under Josh McDaniels, really be a massive failure. If it goes really poorly in primetime on Monday night, look for a lot of hot seat calls for him as well. So I'm willing to bet that the Raiders maybe have a collapse here tonight and the Packers take advantage. I think they cover the 2.5, and I think they win this game too.
I tend to agree with you. And the reason why I'm staying off of this side is one, I'm all, as you can tell with my picks, I'm all bought in on the Davante Adams revenge game. And Jimmy Garoppolo also hates the Packers. Grew up in the Chicago area, obviously, probably is a Bears fan. I remember when we beat when the 49ers beat the Packers, he went up to Robbie Gould, who obviously was kicker for the Packers for a long time. And he was like, the Packers, I think it's still kind of ingrained in him as a child. So I feel like the two of them together are going to be motivated tonight. But yes, when you look at what team is better, I agree with you. And I think that it is the Packers here, but I'm going to stay off the side and just play those props. Let's take a quick look at Thursday night football. Chiefs, Broncos. I mean, when the schedule was out, everybody thought this was going to be an exciting game. Now it looks like it's going to be a blowout. Chiefs laying 10.5, the most lopsided that we've seen for actually, no, the Chiefs have been double digits a couple times this season. This total 51.5. Look, the Chiefs have a hard time covering 10.5, but I've got a hard time giving the Broncos anything.
Right? That's really the long and short of it. Like, have you seen all those Kevin James memes that are out? Like the one where he's like a, coy kind of. So one is like, the one I saw this morning was like, man, like the Broncos couldn't get any worse than Nathaniel Hackett. And it's like Sean Payton, like,
yeah.
Kevin James meme.
Yeah.
He's so bad right now. My goodness. This team can't figure it out. They let the Jets look like a competent offense. They look, again, hey, I'll give Zach Wilson a little credit. Solid game, Zachy. Solid game.
400 yards?
But is it that Zach Wilson has some, positivity and hope, and we're saying, okay, there's some promise here? Or is it that the Broncos defense just stinks that bad? Wow, Mile High Stadium all of a sudden is like a meaningless home field advantage. Like the crowd doesn't even care. There's no life in there. Why would there be? Russell Wilson, he's just running. Now at this point, the most success he has is with his wheels. But it looks like there's nothing open downfield, or he doesn't trust his receivers. There's nothing in sync about the Broncos. Even when a good drive happens, immediately the defense gives it right back. So yeah, I agree. I don't want to lay 10.5 on a short week ever. But like, how do you you're going to swallow this pill and take the Broncos plus 10.5? Good luck. I can't do it.
I might lean over the 51.5 because, like you said, that secondary is so bad.
Trash.
They let Zach Wilson light them up. Lord knows what Mahomes and Kelsey will do to them. Kind of scary, actually, with Kelsey. It's like I thought maybe it was an Achilles or something, and then he taped it up and went back out there. But those guys are tough too. You can imagine. I mean, we watched on the quarterback series from our friends here at Omaha Production on Netflix that you can't get those guys out of a game. So who knows how injured he actually is. But I will say one quick note before we put a bow on this is that the Swifties are now against artificial turf. I don't know if you saw, but they're now they're involved in these games. They're all watching, and I saw several tweets from the Swifties that are outraged about artificial. And I'm like, if Taylor Swift fans can get art, because they are motivated to get artificial turf, banned. If they can do this, then I think everybody's got to stop talking trash about them. Welcome to the game. We love you. But I also read that Patrick Mahomes said that Travis Kelce is just a mean guy when he's injured. And I'm like, well, he better be nice to Taylor Swift, because if he's not, the Swifties are not going to get artificial turf banned, and we can't have that.
Wow. Yeah, right. That's wow. Well, first of all, a lot to unpack here.
Yes.
At first, the broadcast and coverage of the Taylor Swift Kelsey was nauseating, right? Like every camera pan out was to Cornelia Street. Like, cool, she lived in the West Village. Cool, yes, like I get it. The power though is real. Like you're seeing it now. Like I said to myself, I'm watching the Vikings-Chiefs game, and there's Vikings jerseys with Swiftie on the back.
Yes,
like, this is getting outrageous. And then
you know how expensive jerseys are? They had custom jerseys made to say Swiftie, but they weren't even Chiefs jerseys. So it's like you can't wear that at other games.
I don't
you just drop several $100s just to wear it once.
Literally,
which for kids is a lot of money.
I just don't exactly. It just doesn't make sense. But then the next thing I see is we have to ban artificial turf. All these calls for that, all this huge support from new NFL fans who want something about the game to change, a demographic they didn't have before. I'm like, holy smokes, I know I was annoyed, but are they a force for good? Like, they might have
Yes.
saved countless
Yeah.
ACLs and Achilles.
Yeah.
Is like, God
Yes.
bless. I love that.
Yeah, we love you, Swifties. Keep fighting the good fight and get artificial turf banned. The NFL community is with you. On that note, Danny, that is our show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Good luck with all of your bets tonight. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Don't forget to follow us on social at Moxie Bets. See you next time.